Coming up, Peyton Watson. Is he a star? Is he a megastar? Is he a superstar? Should the Nuggets trade Christian Brown into the sun? Is it time to completely change the future of the Denver Nuggets? We're going to talk about it coming up.
Nah, look, hold on. Time out. That's not enough, because here's the thing. Matt been doing all that jawing, all that talking. Wait time. It's only been a month. You got to get the numbers. Like, don't jump the gun. Y'all, this ain't jumping the gun. If you've been following me since 2022 when the draft happened, I told you who he was when he came out of Cali. I told you who he was when he came out of UCLA. I walked into the league, and y'all, this is how I know Matt doesn't remember, because he doesn't follow me for real. He just been finding me to agitate. You post the clip from the Utah game his rookie year, from the Golden State Warriors game his rookie year. I said, this is a future DPOY candidate, possible all-star, and here we are, and Matt's asking questions. Is it real? Man, hush up. Peyton Watson, you a star. Y'all know what time it is. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Victory Laps. Locked On Nuggets, brought to you today by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Thanks for being an everydayer and making us your first listen Monday through Friday. We do appreciate each and every one of you being a part of our community. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. My name is Matt Moore. I've been a credentialed reporter covering the Nuggets for 14 seasons. You can catch me at Fansided, Hardwood Paroxysm, the Substack, the Denver Dig, here at Locked On Nuggets, over at Locked On NBA Daily. I'm joined by SwipaCam, and catch him after every Nuggets game, giving his reaction at SwipaCam, as well as on his YouTube page at SwipaCam. You can catch him on the Press Box. You can catch him on Locked On NFL Game Night. You can catch him on Locked On NBA Game Night, as well as here on Locked On Nuggets. On today's show, we're going to talk about Peyton Watson and his emergence this season. What does it mean for the future of the Nuggets? Should they realign towards that? Can he be a player that is central to the next phase of Nikola Jokic's career? What to do about Cam Johnson and Christian Brown in relation to Watson's emergence. We're glad to have you guys with us, whether you're joining us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, or at youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets. Let us know what you think in the comment section about what the Nuggets should do with what's a good problem to have, which is they got a young player making a leap this season, and we'll have to see how they react to that in the future. I want to do the show with Swipe. I've been excited. I've built graphics. I did show prep. I did lots of stuff here, and I'm not actually, I don't want to talk as much in this episode, which is difficult for me. I tend to talk a lot, but I'm going to try and not talk about as much. What I want to do is I want to get not insinuations, not suggestions. I want to ask the very direct question to Swipa, which is, given Peyton Watson's emergence this season and how he's played, and given how Cam Johnson and Christian Brown have played, what do you think how do you think the Nuggets should react to this emergence by Peyton Watson and how he's played over the past month?
I just think that much of the conversation about Peyton Watson, from fans, I think it's very positive, obviously. But I do think some of the conversations that we have been a little inundated with hypotheticals. And I think Peyton Watson has actually outperformed expectations, even for what we set for him going into the year. Now, if you remember Peyton Watson, and we talked about him, one of the things that we said was David Adams is giving him clearly more responsibility. They're allowing for him to be a lead ball handler because, as obviously, Matt, we talked about this in the playoffs last year. They didn't have enough players that could dribble the ball, that could create and bring the ball up the floor versus pressure. So they then said, hey, Peyton, you actually have the best athletic profile to do this. Let's give you the ball. You had the ball a lot when you were in high school. It's something you're used to. And then from here, go see if you can develop some skill sets. And I remember specifically the Clippers game in the preseason, Matt. I'm pretty sure we had a conversation about this. He had a pull-up three in that game. He used the navigation and pick and roll with Valanciunas to find lanes and created opportunities for Valanciunas at the rim, at the playmaker, but also at the scorer. And you saw that in David Adams' brain, the gears were turning. this could be the next evolution of Peyton Watson. And I remember I also noted to you at the time, at least to Ryan, they weren't doing that with Christian Braun. They didn't give Christian Braun those responsibilities. I think there's something to the best skill set available to grow into this next step as this kind of player is probably more readily going to be Peyton Watson. But Cam Johnson obviously came and helped with that. That's one of the greatest things that Adam had said about him, that the way he deals with pressure as a lead ball handler, having Aaron Gordon do it, having Jokic and Murray, all of a sudden being able to add P. Watt into that, I think it just gave this team a different kind of tenacity. And what I will say is I want to give the credit to the coaching staff. They're the ones that really started to take this foot forward process with Peyton. What Peyton has done is not only make them look correct, I think he has even blown through expectations that they even could have had for him coming into the year based on what he's done, not just in this recent stretch, but I even think how he's elevated his game all year. And here's why. I do think there's something to last year. Peyton was an absolute train wreck as an off-ball shooter for the most part. He was. That's not something he did well. That's not something you could trust him to do consistently. And obviously, once you got into the playoffs, even in the Thunder series, Clipper series, the things that you knew that you needed were, we need play finishers that are able to hit these three-point shots when they double or triple and send pre-rotations at the Jokic-Murray pick and roll or double off of Jokic in the post. Remember the Spurs game last year when Jokic had, I think, 46 points in that game. They doubled off of Russell Westbrook. Wemby was able to put hands up. It was a turnover. They needed to have other players on the floor to make it viable. That way, when you play a defender in this lineup, they can end these possessions. Now, the Dallas Mavericks, that game that we saw from Jokic where he had, whatever his stat line was in that game, when he threw the ball out to Peyton Watson, he missed a corner three, but I think that's good process, and they trust him in those spots now. I think if you just look at Peyton's growth from being able to become a better spot-up shooter, being able to become a better creator, being able to become a better pull-up shooter, and being able to become a better playmaker, I think all of that really has aided itself to, like, he's just genuinely becoming a much better all-around player than he was coming into the season.
Okay. I'll give some pushback, and then we'll get your response, and then we'll go to the next kind of thing, which is like, well, okay, what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
I think talking about like, well, they've just given him this opportunity because they see it. No, man, everybody got hurt. That's why. Like everybody got hurt. Before that, he was just a guy coming off the bench and doing some stuff because he was coming off the bench, and that's what he did. And realistically, like honestly, here's kind of some of the numbers. Had a good stretch in the first 10 games, 6.4 points per game. That's when everybody's healthy. 6.4 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 1.5 assists. Not great efficiency at 56%. 11 through 20, he starts to get more minutes with the starters because guys are missing time, right? This guy started missing time there. 14.3 points, 64% true shooting. 21 through 30, he goes back down to 11 points per game, 15 below 60% true shooting, and only 0.9 assists per game. Then everybody gets hurt, and in the last 31 through 40 games, we're not even through the full 40 games, 21 points per game, 5 rebounds, 1.7 assists, 58% efficiency. Not great efficiency, honestly, overall. If we look at the starter minutes versus the bench minutes, which I think is really interesting here, because this I think is your argument, which is look how good he is with the starters. And I'm not going to completely push back. I will say that there's two outcomes here with the starters. He's either playing next to Nikola with an elevated role, or he's playing without Nikola and he's able to do whatever he wants. So off the bench, he averages 8.8 points per 36 minutes. That's really low that's per 36. 6 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 23% from 3 off the bench, 40% from the field. But you put him as a starter, 17.8 points per 36 minutes, 18 per 36, 6 boards, 2 assists, 42% from 3, and 53% from the field. He's a 50-40 shooter when he's with the starters. I don't know necessarily if I look at that and go like, okay, cool. I think I understand that you want it to be like, well, look at the growth because you were so early on the train, but I think we can pretty clearly say that he didn't make this, like, this wasn't something that going into after the end of last year, we weren't like, who's going to take a big jump next year? It's Peyton Watson. We were just like, yeah, Peyton's still has to figure out what he's going to be. They gave him a bigger role in the offseason for sure. But the idea was like they're going to give him more on-ball reps, especially with the bench. And when he said like they never did that with Christian, well, that's actually not true. They gave Christian a lot more responsibility bringing the ball up both last season and this season. Like he set the offense. He's not an individual offensive creator as much as Watson is, or at all. And I think that's definitely a weakness and a strength for Peyton in this conversation. But those are just kind of my pushbacks of like, well, like if we just kind of look at it, I don't think it necessarily lines up with like what you're trying to paint here. You're not wrong that Peyton's emerging as a star, but it is over the last month or so, and that's really it.
I think the other thing that's important to note here is that even if it's not on paper, like you look at cleaning the glass, his positional distribution, he's playing 58% of his minutes at small forward this year, and the numbers are actually pretty good when he's there this year. I do think there's something too that his usage is clearly higher than last year. And I do think that going into the season, they had already had a communicated plan that this is something we need to improve on as a team. Peyton's growth as a ball handler is a part of David Adelman and them's preseason schedule for Peyton to grow and develop.
But
now,
well, hang on. Was that about developing Peyton, or was that about what the team needed?
Both. He's a rookie. He's on a rookie contract.
First?
Well, I think they're both. Peyton's development is directly tied to the team getting better, though. Like, I think both are true. Like, the same thing with Jalen Pickett and Julian Strother when they originally had them on the roster. Like, the whole point of having young players is, like, they need to develop in order to make the team better. I don't think those are mutually exclusive ideas. Peyton had to get better. And I think we also talked about this. Peyton getting better raises the ceiling of this team.
I agree.
He's not a floor raiser because they have floor raiser, Jokic,
yep.
And then this version of Murray. Obviously, their floor is, like, so high. But Peyton Watson being able to become a legitimate threat while also being able to take a lot of good defensive matchups like he did yesterday in the second half versus Jaylen Brown, that raises the ceiling of the team because it just gives them more options. It makes them longer, makes them more athletic, makes them faster, even better in transition, and they still have outlets in the half court. So I just think there's all the way around, man. There's just something to Peyton is the kind of player, and I think you would agree with this, when Booth drafted him originally, this is the kind of player you think in the long run would work really well with Nikola Jokic. And I think they're kind of building into that vision.
Okay. Let us know in the comments if you think that Swipe is right and this is something that's been building and this coaching staff has seen it, or if you agree with me that this is mostly about circumstance and opportunity. And either way, Peyton deserves a lot of credit for it. Well, coming up, I want to ask Swipe, okay, if he's got this position, what does he want to do about it in regards to the future of the Nuggets? We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Nuggets. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. From 6 to 7:30 Eastern, 4 to 5:30 Mountain, that's become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Open in the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. I got to tell you, for the NFL side, I love the Panthers this weekend. I understand how good the Rams are. There has not been a 10.5-point favorite in the playoffs before on the road. This is insane. And like the performance, I checked all these numbers. They don't do well against the spread when it's supposed to be this big mismatch. Teams under 500 are way over 500 ATS in the playoffs. I think that's really fascinating. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 5:30 Mountain. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. SwipaCam and Matt with you, talking Peyton Watson. All right. I want to get to this, okay? Because I have a habit of putting words in people's mouths, and I shouldn't do that. And so based off of your comments and the things that you have suggested and some of your commentary, I've done that, and I don't want to do that. So I want to ask you, with how Peyton Watson is playing right now, when they get back fully healthy, what do you think the Nuggets should do, both this season and in the offseason?
Oh, that's tough. Offseason's a whole different conversation. When they get back fully healthy, I do think a lot of this depends on where CB is. If CB looks the way he does right now, I don't know if they can sub out Peyton for this version of Brown. I don't think that would be fair to CB because you still think he's a little bit hurt. And I happen to think Peyton Watson has just played better. And I think there's a little bit of synergy that exists there. His defense was really good last night, by the way, per the numbers, at least. Aaron Gordon obviously is going to be able to take over that spot for Spencer Jones. We'll see what happens with Spencer Jones if he comes back and he's able to play next game that they have. I think that for me, it just has to be a very, I think, open-minded process that.
No.
I'm finishing
Okay.
it. I'm saying that the open-minded is, I don't think it's definitive that Christian needs to come back into the starting lineup is what I'm saying. I think he's there currently now. Cam Johnson, I think, will get back in the starting lineup. But if Peyton continues to do what he's doing, for instance, if Peyton is like, he's averaging 20 or whatever the last 5 games, let's just say he keeps going. Like, it's the next 5, 6, 7 games, he's averaging 18 or more plus, and like the synergy's there, the Murray with everybody else is doing what it's supposed to do. I think Aaron Gordon comes back, you start. But then when Jokic gets back, I think that's very simple for me. I think Peyton keeps that job, and then you just kind of go from there. And then I think Christian and him, you need to adjust and do what you got to do. And then eventually, if Christian is able to get in there, then you can get him to start the lineup. But for me, it's just like, I don't know how I really struggle with this, man. Like, so this is a genuine position for me. I struggle with when players are playing this well and they're in a role like this and the season is kind of flipped the way it has, especially the first half of the year. I do struggle with putting players that have earned that position on the bench, given that they've also played a good bit better this season so far.
Okay. So I will, again, provide some pushback.
Yeah.
This is actually in the form of a question. If you do this, it is largely, I understand how much you believe in him. I get it. But we can agree that Christian had played better until this year than Peyton. Yes?
Yeah, for the most part. Absolutely.
All right. So now you're saying that with CB having played 13 games, 13, and Peyton having played 35, that you're going to make a switch. Cam Johnson having played so many games in his career, not as many with the Nuggets, but you're going to make a decision based off of this sample. Why then wouldn't you just switch back? And then you get into this problem, which is players will tell you that's not what they want. Like, they don't want it to be like guys in and out of the lineup. They want it to be solved, because you start getting into this competition and guys start complaining. And that's honestly been a little bit of an issue with Peyton, is that like last year, they made it known in press conferences that people in the locker room were complaining about touches and opportunity. And you could say, like, he should have. Look what he's done. But regardless, the team didn't prefer that. So, like, they want it settled, right? They want to know who's starting, who's playing, what the rotations are. If you base it off, if you make a change, aren't you just going to be constantly changing based off of whoever is playing well, either in the moment or after some smaller sample of games?
No, I think that's a more permanent switch than it is a short-term one for me personally. But I think this is why I think the relationship things are important here, because I do think there's something to, given what we know about Peyton, I do think there's something to, he probably feels as if he's earned the opportunity to keep doing what he's doing. And I think especially giving it being a contract year, especially giving all the things that are kind of surrounding the team and the way that truly he has been able to carry a lot of what they're doing. And I mean carry as in like additionally with Murray and everybody else. Like, he's had a lot of responsibility, Matt. Like, I don't, he's obviously been like a primary defender for them, primary rim protector in a lot of ways. Like, he's had to rebound more, obviously. The scoring uptick has had to be there. The ball handling uptick. I mean, he's done a lot. So I do think there has to be a little bit of adjustment here. Like, do they say, like, hey, this is the best we're going to get for Peyton? We ship him out, attach him to Zeke. And, we talked about IL Jalen Smith. Maybe that package is a little too low now at this point. Like, he probably has more value than that around the league. Is this just a time where you need to be able to maximize his value, since you don't believe they might not be able to pay him come this next summer? But then the other side of this for me is just, how do you go about making sure you're rewarding guys for what they're doing and making sure you're taking care of that business on the other end? But
so your thing is, he has played better this season, so they should I want to lock this down.
Yeah.
That he has played better this season, so they should permanently switch to Peyton Watson starting.
I wouldn't mind it personally. I wouldn't mind it, is what I'm saying.
That is passive language.
I'm saying, like, I would personally, let me just say, I'll do it. I would do it personally. I would do it personally. But, it's I understand locker room situations, obviously money. He's got a $125 million contract. I mean, there's so many different layers to this.
What do you think about him starting for Cam?
That's tough. I think Cam has earned the right to be a starter in this league, and I think he was playing, for the most part, he was playing a lot better with this roster and with the team. But, we talked about this before. Cam with the bench and with Jonas Valanciunas is really good. Like, is there something there to where he's their Alex Caruso? Alex Caruso, for me, is one of the 5 best players on OKC. He doesn't start. But that's just more so situationally. And maybe with Peyton, honestly, or with CB or with Cam, Greg Popovich talking about this all the time, that like it doesn't matter who starts the game, it's about who finishes. And if they want to build that kind of culture where maybe it just is this season is so crazy, they have 6 legitimate starters, that one of these dudes is going to come off the bench and they're going to shine. But for me, the one that has the easiest skill set to magnify on a bench is easily Cam Johnson. Easily. You seem like you're torn.
I mean, for me, it's like I honestly look at like how good Cam has been with Jonas, and I'm kind of like, maybe that's better. Maybe
how you feel like Cam would because he seems to be a very he's obviously an intellectual. He thinks almost like he overthinks a little bit.
Yeah, that's why that is my opinion. Why I think Nikola has been so annoyed with him is that Nikola is this basketball genius, and so we assume that the basketball genius will want other basketball geniuses beside him. But instead, you need to think of him like Good Will Hunting, where like Will Hunting in that movie, hated absolutely every intellectual that he came across and hung out with blue collar guys. That is the best comparison I can make here. Where like Jokic is the guy that looked over at Wemby and was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm reading a book," and he laughed at him. And I was like, I would read a book. I like reading books. Books are good, but sure. So like, and like, there's a little bit of machoism here. I think there's a little bit of machoism culturally.
Yeah, we had a discussion about that book reading incident. I thought he was just joking with him, but
maybe. But I think Cam is. I think that Nikola wants Cam to be more aggressive, and because I can't even say it's like, will make me fewer mistakes, because I don't think Cam makes a ton of mistakes, but every single time that he makes any of them, Jokic loses his mind. Now, to be fair, I think Peyton makes a lot of mistakes, and I think Jokic has reacted in similar ways with him. But that's a good question, which is, okay, this is all well and good, but the ultimate question, of course, is what's best for Nikola? And I have some stats that actually back up Swipa's position pretty clearly, and we're going to talk about them coming up on Locked On Nuggets. Let's be real. Managing your finances can be overwhelming. Between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month, it's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I was shocked when Rocket Money showed me that I was paying for this subscription that I hadn't used in years. I was like, oh man, I completely forgot about that. And it just slipped under the radar. I completely forgot about it, and it's already saved me money. It tracks all your subscriptions and lets you cancel them right in the app. That process I was skeptical of when I signed up for Rocket Money. It was actually absolutely painless. They'll actually also negotiate some of your bills down if you're like, hey, this is what I'm paying for whatever. And they'll say, do you want to try and negotiate a better price? And you say yes. And they'll do all of that on the back end and come back to you. And you have to approve it before you sign up for it, so you'll know all the terms and conditions. You can set budgets and goals, set personalized insights, and receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, and low balances. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. We're also brought to you today by PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge, but with PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and PrizePicks lets you stay in control. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on your player projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. It's going to make the games more engaging, especially when you're following individual player performances. Download the PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Swipa, I have some stats to help with your argument. So I decided to look at how I didn't want to look at the plus minus stuff because I think it's evident. We talked about it last night on the show. Like Jokic is better with Peyton. Like his overall numbers are better. It gets a little messy because Jokic with the bench tends to annihilate teams. Like that end of first quarter, end of third quarter is where he really absolutely destroys some squads. But I thought that this was really interesting. So this is the last 3 seasons since the title season. So Peyton doesn't play much that title season. He starts to take a little bit more of a step in 2024, right? 23-24. And what you see here is with Peyton, Jokic has a higher usage, but his scoring goes up and his efficiency goes up. He's up at 68% true shooting versus 66. With Peyton, he gets more free throws and his 3-point percentage goes up as well, which probably illustrates some of the spacing and cutting that he's able to do. Now, without Peyton, he's got a better net rating when we adjust for low leverage situations. That's, I think, is kind of interesting. But then we also look at Peyton, and I think the numbers are interesting here too, which is Peyton, obviously, like he shoots better with Nikola around. Don't think that's surprising. His rebounds go up a tiny bit. So this is over the last 3 seasons. And then here's this year. If you want to check these graphics out, go to youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets. And this year we're seeing similar stuff with Yoke where all the numbers go up. He's got a 74% true shooting percentage with Peyton on the floor. And he's plus 11.2 with Peyton on the floor and only 7.6 with him off. And that's kind of speaks to the Cam Peyton, I think, dynamic as well as the Christian one. Equally, we see Peyton and his numbers are boosted by Jokic considerably as well. His usage obviously goes up without Nikola and his scoring goes up, but the overall impact does go down a little bit and his shooting is considerably worse. The good news here is that the bad news is probably that Peyton's probably not the player that he's been over the last month in terms of 5 games with how he's been scoring without Jokic. That's probably not sustainable. But the good news is that he does play really great next to Jokic, and Jokic plays better when he's with Peyton. So I think that's part of this equation too. I don't know any reason why we would think that Christian can't fit with Jokic. They've fit great the last 2 to 3 seasons.
Yeah, that was Calvin Booth's note that they were plus 13 without KCP that one year.
So again, I think that it's interesting to kind of look at this from the perspective of the compromise here might honestly be Cam Johnson, that they made the trade to bring in Cam, but they've got an opportunity now to maybe replace Cam with Peyton. We'll see how they would handle it with the RFA. But I think that that's like an interesting kind of dynamic we have to look at.
I want to be fair to Brown here too, because I think most of this year, the reason why the numbers for Brown with Jokic are probably not as good as they could be is because Brown just didn't start the year off like he did last year. He started last year off. I remember you and I and Brian were having conversations, was like, is this sustainable? You know what I mean? Because the way that he was shooting last year was, what was it, 15 a game on 65 true shooting, and he was shooting like crazy from 2, and then he was hitting 39% of his threes. The cutting was amazing, all of that. So there is a world where I think hopefully Christian Brown gets back to that this year, once he gets completely past his ankle injury and seeing some of the Sam Darnold ghost like he saw versus the New England Patriots defense when he was with the Jets. I just think some of this is just about Christian gets back to normalcy with its elevation from Peyton. And I think the most important story here for me is that they're both just really good. Both of them. I think this is like the vision that the front office had, that they would have these kind of players on the roster. They would be able to supplement all the things they were looking for. And they were just both foundational core pieces going forward. I think that's the best outcome that I would like to see. And I think both of them can get to that level where they can do it. But then it just becomes like who staggers, who starts, and everything else. And it might be Cam.
Yeah. I continue to kind of feel like my big thing is just I watch a lot of Jokic's reactions. And I feel like at this point, I've watched him for long enough that it's like, well, he does this with everybody. No, he doesn't. Some guys get to make as many mistakes as they want, and it's fine. Other guys don't. And that to me is like a significant thing. And I do think that he likes and trusts Peyton. Like that's in your favor here is like whatever the big fellow wants is the most important thing. Big fella likes Peyton Watson.
Peyton, I mean, he's talked the most. I mean, you correct me if you feel like I'm different. I feel like Peyton, among the young players, has talked the most about his individual relationship with Yoke. And remember, they did that commercial together. Was that the title year?
Yeah.
They did, and then the chain and all the, they just seem to have like a, kind of a buddy, older brother, little brother relationship. And like, that's his guy type thing. So that matters in basketball. Obviously, it matters in sports. But Matt, and I guess too, to be fair to myself, and I don't want you to think I'm anti-Christian, because it's not. I think Christian's really good. I think this year for Christian just started off so bad. And I think maybe I have some PTSD about last playoffs as well, that like those record scratching plays. Now, defense in the Clipper series was great from like game 2 on, basically. But I do think the offensive thing for Christian, I do have some concerns. I'm just
and I was talking about this with Ryan. The biggest thing is just like, it is rare that I have more faith in literally anything in the world than anybody else. I'm just not a very faithful person, except to my wife. But I don't like just have a lot of faith about many things. I rely on evidence, and that's how I approach the world. I believe in this offense.
Yeah.
They're not stoppable. They are unstoppable. It is impossible to stop this offense. And I think OKC did as good a job as you can, because their defense was unbelievable. But I'm also kind of like, I think you could, I am not as concerned about the offensive stuff. Like, the key with the Nuggets is going to be, can they get stops versus OKC if they face them? Like, that's going to be that to me is what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Now, as good as Christian struggled early in the series versus Shea and got better and better as the series went on. He got way better. Mm-hmm. But if I'm worried because the Thunder are a primarily pick and roll team, and the Nuggets' biggest defensive weakness this season is pick and roll, and Peyton is their best pick and roll defender, I will tell you, like, I'm coming around to the idea of just bringing Cam off the bench, and then you can decide what to do in the offseason. And that might honestly just be the solution where everybody wins here. You give Peyton, this emerging star, an opportunity to shine. Now, where this goes sideways is the RFA part of it.
Yeah.
Because
can you give me an estimation based on what you think, please? Because you've 14 years, right, covering the Nuggets?
Yes.
Credential?
Yes.
Worked in the NBA?
Yes.
Write the NBA, MVP stuff, numbers, all that stuff. What do you actually think is going to happen by summer? Like, if you put your best guess estimation on how you've seen the league work, what actually happens this summer?
I think the most likely scenario is that he gets squeezed in RFA.
It's like Austin Reeves squeezed, like 12 mil?
Yeah. That he gets pretty badly squeezed in RFA. I think it's tough to see them with the money that they've already committed to Nikola, Jamal, and AG, and now Christian signing up for another big money deal just as like you earned it. That doesn't make any sense under the current rules. Mm-hmm. You can let Cam go, and you still can't do that. You can't have that contract on the books. It prohibits you too much. You just can't allocate that much money to that number of guys. So you squeeze him. Now, the problem with this is he signed up with Clutch, and they will absolutely throw a raging fit. Like, they will, and like Clutch is willing to do anything. Was
Reeves signed with Clutch when that happened?
Think so.
Because remember, there were suitors. I think the Spurs were one of them that wanted to talk to him, mm-hmm. but the Lakers basically came out per the PR machine. We're matching anything you send out, so whatever. I mean, that's just the way the business works. Obviously, maybe the Nuggets will have to do that kind of situation, but yeah, I mean, it's tough because I want to see players get paid as much as they can. So, like, if that's here or somewhere else, but I guess, Matt, I say my biggest thing that I'm feeling right now, the thing that I feel now more than I did coming into the year is that when this team gets healthy, they're going to be a juggernaut because they have so many layers at this mm-hmm. point. You know what I mean? Like, so many different ways they can attack you. And I think defensively now, they're just bodies. There's just a lot of bodies they can throw at you. And I think they feel, and I think that Adelman feels comfortable with.
Yeah. And you need options.
Game changer.
Like, you need options. Like, what if CB sprains another ankle in the playoffs? And it's like, hey, thank God we got Peyton Watson, who came through and scored 25 in that Game 6 win. Like, That's the kind of stuff that you want. It's a good problem to have. I think it's an interesting one. This has been a great show. I really enjoyed this. This has been great. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for Boom and Gloom tomorrow afternoon at 4 Eastern, 2 Mountain with Ryan and Swipa. Then we'll be back with you post game after the Hawks game, as I remember how to get to Ball Arena because it's been so long.
I've been there in weeks.
So thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.